Have you ever felt like you were born in the right place, but as the wrong person? Have you ever looked around your own family and wondered, why do I see what no one else sees? Why do I feel so deeply what everyone pretends to ignore? Why do I cry where everyone laughs and dream where everyone has settled? There is a restlessness in you that you didn't learn. It was born with you. And no matter how much you tried to fit in, be quiet, shrink yourself, smile, your soul still cries out for something others don't understand. This pain you carry of not being understood even by your own is not a flaw. It's the first sign that you are chosen. Yes, chosen. And being chosen has nothing to do with divine favoritism. It has to do with purpose. It has to do with weight, with burden, with mission. It's about seeing cracks where everyone says everything's fine. About sensing in your spirit that there are chains in your family no one dared to face, and realizing far too early that you are the one who will have to break them. It's when you feel you're ahead of your time, but alone in your generation. It's when heaven calls you to a place your own household cannot comprehend. Not because they are bad, but because they were not activated for the battle you were called to win. And maybe for a long time, you thought there was something wrong with you. Maybe you went silent, questioned yourself, grew ill in silence, trying to fit into a frame made for someone you never were. But now, as the eyes of your spirit begin to open, you start to remember you were not rejected, you were set apart. And that's why you've made it here. This script is not just another piece of content. It is a call to awareness, a summons from heaven. If your soul began to stir in the first few lines, then understand this is no coincidence, because in every generation, God chooses only one per family, one per bloodline, one to break what seemed eternal, to heal what was buried, to rise where so many have fallen. And maybe, in this generation, that one is you. But before we continue, check now if YouTube hasn't removed your subscription from this channel. Yes, it's been happening. Many chosen ones report that they were unsubscribed without realizing it. So pause for a moment and click to subscribe. This isn't about vanity, it's about mission. This space was created for souls like yours. And if this calling is stirring something inside you, it's because you're in the right place. Let's move forward, because the journey of the chosen is long, but it begins with a simple awakening. Being the chosen one in a bloodline doesn't mean being the strongest, the most prepared, or the wisest. It means being the most sensitive, the most available, the one who, even in the midst of pain, still listens. Even in the midst of confusion, still perceives. Even in the midst of chaos, still believes that something greater is happening. And that's why from an early age, you began to notice the patterns, the silences that weighed more than the screams, the repetitions everyone accepted as normal, the sufferings that were inherited as if they were part of the DNA, but inside you, something always resisted. Something whispered, this has to end. This cannot go on. This is not why I was born. That whisper which followed you through childhood, in your dreams, in your loneliest moments, was not imagination. It was the calling, a sound that few hear because few are awake enough to recognize it. A sound that doesn't come from the outside, but from within. An echo of heaven in your chest. An ancient memory that you didn't come just to exist, you came to redeem. And even when you tried to silence this calling, it persisted. In the form of tears you couldn't explain. In gut feelings that warned you before any word was spoken. In questions no one could answer, but that burned like fire in your chest. You were called not because you were the most ready, but because you were the most willing to be broken and rebuilt. The most willing to pay the price of confrontation, of solitude, of deep sensitivity that no one around you seemed to carry. And that, for years, may have felt like a burden. But now, you're beginning to understand that it was a seal, a mark, a code. Heaven didn't call you by accident. It called you because it knew you wouldn't give up. There are people in your family who got lost, others who became hardened, others who got sick because they were never truly seen. But you, even with open wounds, remained standing, crying but alert, falling but feeling, hurt but still hearing the sacred voice saying, Hold on a little longer. The world doesn't understand, but heaven is watching. And you held on. You're still holding on. Because within you, there's a mission that cannot yet be explained, but has already been activated. And now, everything starts to make sense. The calling was never about you. It was about all those who came before and all those who will come after, and you are the bridge. Being the chosen one in a family is not a title, it's a battle. And the most painful part is that this war happens far from everyone's eyes. On the outside, it looks like everything's fine. You smile, carry on, do what needs to be done. But on the inside, there are invisible trenches where your soul fights every day against forces others don't even recognize as real. Because while your family repeats cycles, you feel them. While everyone goes on with their routines, you sense the weight that runs in the blood. While others deny, you feel as if their pain is your own. You carry anguish that doesn't belong to you, but that chose to rest on your shoulders. Inherited emotional burdens, transgenerational pain, spiritual wounds that no one had the courage to deal with. Now all of them scream inside you, waiting for redemption. And to natural eyes, that looks like exaggeration, too much sensitivity, drama. But to spiritual eyes, it's mission. You are carrying what was never resolved, so those who come after won't have to carry it too. This war has no medals. It has no applause. No one says thank you for feeling so much. No one claps for forgiving those who never asked for forgiveness. No one celebrates your silent prayers in the middle of the night, the fast you did without telling anyone, the tears shed without witnesses. But heaven records every step. Because this war is not punishment, it's a platform. And every scar you carry in silence is building the altar where your generation will be set free. The most sacred thing about this fight is that you could have given up. You could have conformed. You could have said, I'm not strong enough and no one will blame you. But you remained. And that endurance is what transforms pain into spiritual authority. Because every pain felt with awareness becomes anointing. Every tear embraced as part of the mission becomes fuel for the purpose. And every war faced alone becomes victory for many. And maybe now you understand you're not at war because you're weak. You're at war because you were entrusted with ending it. The battle that started before you were even born ends with you. Because God decided that in this generation, the cycle will break. Have you ever felt completely alone, even when surrounded by people? Have you ever felt that the table was full, but your spirit was somewhere else? That even among your own, you were the strange one, the outsider, the one who sees beyond, feels too much, and carries a level of awareness that seems to have no space to exist among others? This is the isolation of the chosen one. But what few people know is that this isolation is not rejection. It is preparation. It is consecration. It is divine strategy. Because when God chooses someone to change a bloodline, he has to work on that heart in secret. He doesn't shape altar warriors in the crowd, he shapes them in the wilderness. It's there that he silences all other voices, so that the only one you learn to recognize is his. It's there that he removes the support, the praise, the predictable hugs, not out of cruelty, but so that you will lean only on what is eternal. Because while others live for validation, you must live by instruction. Maybe you felt forgotten, ignored even by your own family. The looks that didn't understand you, the unanswered questions, the feeling of not being seen. But the truth is, in those moments, heaven saw you even more clearly. The silence was a cocoon, a spiritual training ground where your spirit was being forged. Because the weight you will carry, the authority you will walk in, and the legacy you will leave could not be built in the noise of the world. You had to be hidden. The cave that hurt so much, you now begin to recognize as a school. The distance that once caused pain now reveals itself as a shield. The waiting that once consumed you now reveals its glory. God didn't want to expose you before the appointed time, because when heaven releases you, it won't be out of impulse. It will be out of destiny. Isolation, then, is not a mistake. It is heaven's signature. The ones who make the greatest impact are almost always those who suffered the most in silence. Because the depth of the anointing is born in the depth of solitude. And you, even without realizing it, were being formed by God while the world thought you were standing still. Have you ever wondered why you feel so much? Why certain words pierce through you like spears while others just laugh or ignore them? Why you perceive what no one talks about? Why you get sad over things no one else notices? Why you feel uneasy in places where everyone else seems at peace? From a very early age, you've carried a sensitivity that felt like a burden. But it's not weakness, it's spiritual armor. An invisible lens God placed over your eyes so that you could see what cannot be spoken, but still needs to be transformed. While most are distracted, you perceive. While others get used to the environment, you feel what's wrong with it. That sensitivity, which many called exaggeration, drama, intensity, is in fact a rare gift from heaven. You were configured to discern the invisible, and as painful as that is, it's that very sensitivity that makes you the first to pray when no one else cares, the first to sense danger when everyone else moves forward, the first to break, to intercede, to weep for pains that aren't even yours but touch your spirit as if they were. The world tried to harden you, told you that feeling so deeply would make you weak, but heaven smiled, because that sensitivity is precisely the proof that your heart is still accessible to the mission. You feel because healing begins through you. It's in your tears that deliverance begins. It's in your anguish that heaven is stirred through intercession. God made you sensitive, not so you would be destroyed, but so you would detect first, discern first, and protect those around you. And that's why you often feel the atmosphere shift when you walk into a room. That's why people fall silent around you. That's why even those who reject you still respect, in silence, what you carry. Because deep down, they know there's something in you that sees beyond. And that, chosen one, is sacred. So if you've ever been called too intense, too sensitive, too dramatic, or too much to handle, breathe. That is just how the world tries to label what it cannot understand. You are not broken. You are awake. If this message touched your spirit in a special way, comment, "I see what no one sees" below. That phrase is a spiritual seal, a declaration that you recognize your sensitivity not as weakness, but as a sacred tool. There are moments when you don't understand why certain situations disturb you so much, why certain conversations, even simple ones, sound like alarms inside your chest. Why, even without proof, you feel that something is wrong. And the most frustrating part, trying to explain it to others and seeing in their eyes disbelief, disdain, or indifference. But what you need to understand once and for all is that this is not imagination, it's not exaggeration, it is spiritual perception. It is God establishing you as the watchman of your house. In every family, there is someone who perceives first, who carries a sort of invisible radar for what others can't detect, who senses when the spiritual atmosphere shifts, who notices the weight in a relative's eyes, the charged silence in the room, the presence of something that no one mentioned but is clearly there, that someone is you. And as lonely as that may seem, it is also your most precious gift, because the watchman is not in the house to be distracted. He is there to protect. You feel before others because you were raised to intercede for them. You detect danger before the storm arrives because your role is not just to survive the winds, it's to announce that they are coming and prepare the house not to fall. You were not spiritually positioned to be popular. You were positioned to be effective. You are the one who, while everyone sleeps, prays, while everyone celebrates, discerns, while everyone ignores, watches. And yes, it's exhausting, it's heavy, it feels unfair, but it's also that sensitivity that allows you to guard lives. Have you noticed how, in the most chaotic moments, even those who mocked your faith end up coming to you? When fear arrives, when illness knocks at the door, when despair suffocates, your name is the one they remember. Why? Because even those who don't believe recognize where true presence dwells. Heaven entrusted you with the most silent and at the same time most strategic role in an entire bloodline, to keep watch when no one else is willing. That is an honor. Even if it comes wrapped in solitude, there are truths that no one speaks aloud, but that you feel in your spirit. You sense that your family carries old baggage, that there are unresolved pains, silent pacts, emotional addictions, inherited fears, and deep wounds that pass from generation to generation as if they were part of the blood. You look back and see patterns repeating, people getting sick in the same way, loving in the same unhealthy way, failing at the same point every time. People who dream too little, or who dream and then give up. People who fake, avoid, and merely survive. And all of this seems normal to them, but to you, it never did. Since early on, something told you, this isn't right, this isn't all there is, this can't go on. And that silent discomfort which followed you even when you were still a child was heaven whispering your spiritual position. You were not sent to continue the lineage as it is, you were sent to restart everything. You are not an extension of the past, you are a new beginning. You didn't come to repeat, you came to interrupt, to deprogram patterns, to dismantle lies, to break silent curses that no one else dared to confront. You are the reset, the redefinition, the blank page where God begins to rewrite your family's story. And yes, it hurts, because the spiritual system that operated in your lineage feels your presence as a threat. That's why you've been attacked so much. That's why the weight of family life has always felt heavier for you. That's why your internal conflicts were more intense, because you carry the code of rupture. What is in you is a new era, a new frequency, a new foundation. And even without understanding everything, you keep going. And even without support, you press on. Because the spirit within you already knows you were not the first to suffer, but you will be the first to overcome. You are the new foundation, the new cornerstone, the brick placed by God to build a future that was never possible before you. And even if no one in your household says this in words, their spirit knows it, and so does hell. No matter how hard you tried to follow the path of everyone around you, something always stopped you. Something inside you wouldn't allow you to continue down roads that seemed comfortable for others, but felt tight and dark for you. It didn't matter how many times you tried to repeat the same patterns, behave the same way, mold yourself to the same standards. Every time you tried, a restlessness would rise, a feeling of suffocation, a silent sadness that whispered, this is not your place, this is not your destiny, you didn't come this far to be just another. And now with more spiritual maturity, you're beginning to understand, you were programmed to break the cycle, not to repeat the same emotional traits, the same silences, the same failures, the same broken relationships, the same narratives of limitation and self-sabotage. You carry within you a spiritual code of restart. You are the end of repetition and the beginning of revolution. That explains why everything in you is different. The way you love, how you feel, how you think, how you question, how you refuse to accept easy answers for deep questions. You carry within you a rare combination of pain and faith, of sensitivity and strength, of breaking and rebirth. You are a sacred project, placed with surgical precision into a bloodline marked by wounds so that those wounds no longer become destiny, but testimony. And as unfair as it may seem to carry so much on your shoulders, this weight is a seal. God knew that only someone with your sensitivity could withstand the fire without burning out. Only someone with your spirit could endure loneliness without strain. Only someone with your courage could face confrontation without retreating. That's why he programmed you to break the cycle. While everyone accepts, you question. While everyone stays silent, you rise. While everyone normalizes, you feel indignation. And that's why sometimes you feel broken. But the truth is, you are functioning exactly as you were designed because you are not a continuation. You are a turning point, a final line, a new beginning. And the most powerful part is that you don't need to understand everything in order to keep going. Your soul already knows the way. Because those who are programmed to break cycles feel it in their spirit when something needs to end. And it doesn't matter how much it hurts, how much it costs, or who judges you for it, you were called to close chapters that should have never continued. Have you ever stopped to think that the weight you carry is not just a burden, but a promise? That behind every silent tear, behind every night when you asked, why me? Something greater was being formed? There is a promise hidden exactly at the point where you felt the most pain. A promise that won't be fulfilled when everything is perfect, but precisely while you walk, broken, faithful, and firm. Because heaven never demanded you be flawless, only available. God didn't choose the strongest, he chose the most willing. And it's that willingness that carries the promise. What others see as weight, heaven sees as a platform. What you thought was a delay was God sparing you from paths that would have destroyed you before your time. The weight no one understands is in fact the seal of the promise no one else saw. You weren't called to live lightly like those who ignore their mission, you were called to live deeply. Because depth creates roots. And what you are planting today in tears will be harvested in joy by your descendants. They may not know the names of your battles. They may never see the fasts you committed to, the whispered prayers behind locked doors, the screams that never left your throat, but all of it is being recorded where it truly matters, in eternity. And one day will come. The day your family will look back and, perhaps with tears in their eyes, say, "Now I understand." They'll understand why you were different, why you preferred silence, why you pulled away when others drew near, why you didn't laugh at certain things, why your gaze was distant but your soul on fire. That day will come. It may take time. It may not be now. It may not even be recognized in your lifetime, but it will come, because what is planted with purpose blooms in its exact time. And when that time comes, your presence will be reverenced. Your memory will be a seed. Your story will be the foundation of a new generation. You're not just changing your life, you are rewriting a destiny. And the most beautiful part is knowing that what bleeds inside you today will become the scar that brings healing to those who come after. Your children, grandchildren, nephews, the young people of your spiritual lineage, they will all drink from wells you dug with faith. They will walk paths you opened through pain. And without understanding how, they will feel an unexplainable lightness because someone before them carried the weight they no longer have to bear. That someone is you. And even if your family never said a prayer for change, God raised you up as the answer to the prayer that was never spoken out loud. You are the echo of the enough your ancestors screamed in silence. The answer to the intercession of souls who didn't know how to be free, but who cried out, even without words, for someone brave enough to do things differently. That someone didn't come with a manual, didn't come with support, didn't come with a map, but came with faith, and that faith is what has sustained you this far. So, when you look back and ask yourself if it was worth it, remember, you're not being remembered by the world, but you are being honored by heaven. Heaven saw every seed planted, every silent surrender, every yes you whispered through tears, and when everything feels too heavy, remember, you weren't chosen to be understood. You were chosen to be remembered, and there's a difference. Those who are understood live for applause. Those who are remembered live for purpose. So if there is still one breath of strength left in you, take a deep breath now and tell yourself, I was chosen for this. Not because I'm better, but because I'm available. Not because I deserve it, but because I carry a mission. And when you lay down tonight, even if no one knows all that you carry, heaven will know. Because today, once again, you remain standing. And that is already victory.